Welcome everyone to another episode. I've got the Ducati, here we go, the Ducati Super Sport in the back here, which you would have seen last week that I picked up. It will be a project, absolutely, and I have been fiddling around with it. For those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, have a follow on that. There's always more up-to-date stories and whatnot on that. But it did make me think, what costs am I gonna have to throw into this to make it run? And is there a benefit from getting a bike in this state, which, as you can see, is a little bit wrecked, compared to a bike that is in perfect working order with an MOT and all sorts? Fortunately, I've been in all these situations, from a bike that has MOT on it to bikes that don't, that have come in bits, so I'm able to give quite a good insight onto what is more cost effective. And the age-old question, is it an economical lie to buy a bike for dirt cheap that might need work doing compared to spending a little bit more money on a runner that might not? So what I'll do is I'll go through all the bits, list them out, and in the end we'll see exactly what that answer is. So first things first, non-runner versus runner. Now I have no idea what the price of bikes are going to be out when this video goes out and when anyone's going to be watching it, but roughly let's take this into consideration. This bike behind me here, let's price it at 400 and let's price a runner for about 1200. So instantly you can see the difference there. An extra 800 quid gets you a runner with an MOT, which means that you can, if it's already got an MOT, perfect, tax it, insure it, you're on the road, and then do bits slowly. With this, something like this, nothing, nada, zip. We don't even know if it runs. So here are the hidden costs that you might want to figure out. First things first, frame. Is the frame in a good condition? That's one thing you need to check. With a bike that might be cheap. In this instance, frame is, swing arm isn't. So that's a cost you've got to consider. Next thing, just as important as the frame, engine. Does the engine run? Now there are a lot of hidden costs with both bikes. If you've got a bike that's past its MOT, great, you know that probably very few things that need to be changed on that. Now if the bike's past its MOT, if it's a runner, we know that it's probably going to be very little that needs doing to that from an engine point of view. With this one here, could be anything. Could be pistons, valves, carburetors, gears, any of those things. So that might be a hidden cost there. Number two, now whilst we're talking about carburetors and engines, one thing to consider for both is that depending on the age of the bike, and we know this for a fact, if you've got a 40-year-old bike, chances are any rubber bits on that will have probably started to have perished or have perished or whichever. Now if it's a runner, probably a less likely chance, but the chance is if you take the carbs off, the carburetor boots might be a little bit hard, might be a little bit cracked, lets in a little bit of air in, you'll need a new one of those, and those aren't cheap, especially for something like the GS550, which was £40 per boot, and I needed 4 of those. That's 160 quid straight away, just on a bit of rubber. But same could be said for the Ducati as well. If that needs new carb boots, same cost on that. Bearings. Now bearings are a really important thing on any part of the bike, be it engine or wheels, stems, the steering stem. If the bearings have gone, now that's a cost as well that you need to figure out. On both bikes there's a likelihood that the bearings will need to be changed, if not immediately, but at some point. For example, the Joe's Herald, it went, it rolled, but the bearings are actually completely seized, which means that we're spinning the axles. So again, that's a little hidden cost that you need to figure out. Suspension on both, your rear shocks and your front forks as well. Make sure that you check for any leaks, especially if you've got a runner. If you've got any leaks, that's just a little check on that. You need new fork seals, but that can be said with both bikes. And finally, all the cables and hoses and everything that you need for both. Make sure you check both. Now what I can compare the Ducati is it needs a new swing arm, new fuel hoses, new carburetor parts. The tank needs beating out. It needs a new rear master cylinder for the brake. It needs new handlebars. It needs new tiles, and that is just to be able to get a bike functioning. Oh, and it needs a new seat as well. It's not like if you were to buy a runner, which obviously has a seat, this doesn't even have a seat. So the hidden costs are starting to be listed, as you can see here, which aren't really that cheap. So far, the knowledge I have and the tools I have already invested in this place to actually get it running. Now that's not to say it will be running, but it gives us a good ballpark of how much money we need to throw at it before it starts becoming a running bike. Now what you'll see from all these costs here is that the amount of money that I need to spend on this bike is probably far greater than the £1,200 that I would have had to spend on a runner bike. Now that's in theory if the bike was £1,200, but you can see already this is starting to be a money pit and it's not even starting yet. So I guess the answer to all this is it worth buying a bike that is an absolute non-runner compared to one that is roadworthy and has an MOT? Doesn't have a straightforward answer. It depends how much money you want to throw into something, but more importantly how much joy you want to have out of doing it. Now for me, getting this bike up on the road will bring me a lot more joy than if I would have bought a new bike or a running bike. More specifically, if I would have bought a running super sport with an MOT on it, I would not want to do any of the work on it that I'm going to be doing to this. Now this isn't going to be a resto mod or anything like that. It's going to be a complete take on the super sport, and it's not going to look anything like it was ever meant to be. Now that is one factor to consider here. Do you want to be stripping down a perfectly running bike, or do you want to challenge yourself? The second thing to think about is the achievement there and rescuing a bike. Now this would have gone to the scrap heap unless someone else would have picked it up, which is possibly the case, but we are rescuing a bike from the scrap heap. And number two, it's more of a self-achievement. If I can get this running with everything that needs doing to it, and if it's restoring a bike that was ready for a scrap heap, then that for me gives me more enjoyment than it would have been if I had bought a running bike. Now of course, everything I've said today is purely about getting a bike running. We're not talking about any of the modifying costs, anything that goes beyond that. Now that can be a blank checkbook, or it can be budgeted to whatever cost that you want. But here are all the hidden costs that you need to consider just to get the bike moving and running. So I hope that answers everything. I know it's been one of those, well, how long is a piece of string thing, but it gives you a better idea whether you should invest in that £200, £300, £400 project that you're eyeing up on eBay, or whether you want to invest a little bit more on a bike that has an MOT or it's a runner. It also depends on your skill as well. It depends how skillful you are and how much you want to learn on the job. So if you don't have the skills, absolutely, I will still encourage anyone to buy a bike like this, strip it down, build it up, learn as you go, because there's no better way of doing it than actually immersing yourself right in it. And what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't run. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But it depends how confident you are. If you're not that confident and you just want to modify bits here and there, like new bars, new grips, new paint scheme, absolutely, go for the runner. Go for the one that you actually know will pass its MOT, and one that will give you joy, one that gets you on the road straight away. So that's it. If you like what you see, and if you want to follow all these other builds that we have, again, there are so many builds in the garage, then subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I will see you next week.